to.
Yeah,
So I'm
we
just going to
should be
repeat.
live.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, so everybody, if you can see us now, I apologize for that. I've had to rebuild my computer this morning, as some of you know, and so I am not in the groove yet, and we had a crash, and not anybody's fault but my own. I was trying to make some changes to vMix while vMix was streaming, and that's probably my fault. So let's see. So hopefully everybody will join us in the other stream. And okay, they're saying we're back. And let's see. Manuel says we're back. More people are joining. Okay, good. All right, sorry about that, everybody. These things happen. Live show, you know. So back to Darren, who, Darren, you said you were going to pick up on the short version of your answer, and then we were going to move on.
Yes, short version of the answer. And I'm going to add one other thing. The talk about task analysis is great. I'm glad to see people are including it and bringing it more into UX-oriented work. Please make sure, however, the part I wanted to add, please make sure you do a needs analysis first so that you know what you're supposed to be conducting task analysis on. And please don't be in such a hurry to start the designing process. Please don't do that. After you do that initial task analysis, one thing I mentioned, my short answer is make sure that you validate that task analysis. Make sure that nothing was missed, because that task analysis, when you do it correctly, you're going to have the set of tasks, and then you want to understand the subtasks, and you want to audit the tasks to make sure you've accounted for everything, which is really on the UX side of things, helps us to identify the micro experiences they're going to live within those subtasks. So then that's my short answer, and I'm going to defer because I know Debbie's going to have a lot to say on this, and I saw Dr. Nick taking notes.
Nick, did you want to add something before I jump in?
I don't know if I should do it afterwards, because I'm pretty sure mine's going to be contrary to what both of you are going to suggest. It's a very much an it depends kind of question, because it's very much, it depends upon what you're doing the task analysis on, i.e. the project, the product, the service, whatever it is you're dealing with. This comes back to top down, bottom up, and a bit of agility. There are definitely times in certain organizations, certain projects, products, services, where you can do a rapid task analysis, get something prototyped quickly, and get it in front of people and validate not only your execution, your design, but did I get the task analysis right? And just rapidly iterating. That's not a bad way of doing things. It's just not a typical way of doing things.
True.
And you have to have the confidence to know when it's appropriate to do that. So I don't want to be too maverick or rogue. You know what I'm saying? And Darren's nodding, and you know what I mean. It's for me.
Yes,
it
your
depends.
own point.
As you get more senior, you know when you can do this stuff.
So
or when it's
I think it also
project. Sorry.
It also speaks to the point that there is no one set way to do everything. So there's always going to be this venture off where, but you could also do this, and it's still right. I want to make sure people know that as well. No, I'm on board with everything he said.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in here and kind of split the difference accidentally and basically say that, hi, Sarita, good to see you. And Afzal, I got your question, and Tech Guy will add yours to the bottom of the list. It's already a long list of questions, everybody. So, Darren, as much as we've missed you, we're going to have to remember shorter answers so we can get, we've got a lot more people coming to these lives than we used to. Sometimes we're getting 30 people now. So, and someday I hope to say an even higher number, but even that's cool. So my first thought was, depending upon how you did the task analysis, if you do it the way that Larry teaches, where you're starting with observational research and you're taking the time to do good research process, which I do think I've got my graphic on, if you're doing a good process and you've done good analysis, it might already be valid. Sometimes the task analysis is in need of validation if it came from guesses or a workshop, but if you're coming from the right place, it might not specifically need further validation. And if you have done the optimized task flow, which I know isn't showing up well on the background, but if you've watched our show on this, you can just go to YouTube and write deltacx task analysis. If you've done the optimized task flow, you now have your streamlined future state of your user flow. if you've done your future state of your user flow, you can see if there's other information architecture that needs to be done. You can see if there's other content strategy or content work that needs to be done. And then I would say you can start looking at your screens, but make sure you're working from the optimized task flow, because I see sometimes people say, oh, I did some research and now I'm just making screens. And I go, based on what? You at least need that step of understanding what the user's flow is going to be, what some of the paths and branches of it are going to be, and that way you even know what screens to make. So I think that's what I would say about that, and I'm going to queue up the next question while Nick throws something else at us.
Quick addendum. I don't know how often you guys, your experience, and I haven't been in a design role for a number of years now, so that's a big caveat. But doing a task analysis isn't something I was asked to do very regularly, because it's not often you get a green field or a new project, or usually I'm working with a very, very already defined task, and there's no value in doing a further analysis, if you know what I mean. I'm asked to do something, to create a new function, to extend a function, to improve conversion, whatever that thing is. Do you see what I mean? It's working on an existing thing rather than creating a new thing.
Yep.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So let's take a look at our next question. And I should probably stop messing with vMix settings and wait until the show's done. Hello, Debbie. How do I practice UX design more? I know for UI, designing more UI till you're better. How can I, as a UX designer, I guess, practice? Is it wireframing, reading books? Thanks. Oh, Darren. Darren's passing on this one. Hey, Byron.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to direct traffic.
Oh, well, normally I direct it to whoever looks like they're ready to jump all over it. So, Darren, you want to jump on this one?
I went first last time. I'll defer to Dr. Nick.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm going to smash this one, and this is going to be a big nugget, so everyone tune in. I think what we're talking about here is the difference between... Okay, I'm bigging myself up here. I shouldn't do that. But this is gold. This is absolute gold. And you guys know this, but our audience probably doesn't. I think what you're really asking here is what's kind of the difference between a UI designer and a UX designer, which is in itself a really great question. But the fundamental difference between the two on pretty much any one scale is user research, right? I think that's pretty obvious. So as a UX designer, how can you practice it? How can you get better at it rather than just drawing more UIs and somehow, until you are better was interesting. How do you know you're better as a UI person? That's another discussion. As a UX designer, working with research inputs and converting them into design solutions is what makes you a UX designer. I'll say that again for the heart of understanding, or just to make sure it goes in. But the difference between you as a UX designer and a UI person is the inputs that you use in the design solutions. And those inputs are user research evidence, validated evidence. So you can design with a degree of confidence. Your insight comes from your researcher. That helps inform or inspire your solution.
Darren, something to...
Thank you. You can throw money in at me and all of that great stuff.
Well, if you throw money, it comes to me, so okay. I totally accept that. Throw money.
Yeah,
I'm just going to walk on water. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
I was going to chime in on what I referred to as the UX cycle of excellence, because what I hear in this question has to do with something, and I haven't heard anybody else mention this, and I'm starting to use it, and I did a workshop on it recently, delivered a workshop, actually. Personal UX maturity. We talk about UX maturity at the corporate level, but we don't talk about it at the personal level. How do I grow as a UX professional? How do I transition? Maybe you were already a UI designer and you want to get in on the UX side of things. That means you have to come through a proper approach so that you can lay a proper foundation for yourself and then continue to grow in a way that you continue to build your skill, you continue to build your knowledge, you continue to be better at what you do. It's not just wireframing, it's not just reading books, it's a whole bunch of stuff. If you go to uxuncensored.medium.com and you'll see a blog post there called the UX Cycle of Excellence. There's a 7-step process, so that's only 5 fingers, 7 steps, a 7-step process that you can use no matter what level of seniority you're at that will help you. It involves defining the discipline properly, knowing yourself, knowing where, identifying areas, because UX is a big thing, identifying things where you need to improve, where you know you need to improve, things where you know you need to get better. And to shorten this, you just keep going through that cycle and you just keep getting better. And that's basically it. But look up that blog post and that'll give you what you need.
Yeah, and I would always add working with a mentor or coach, someone who can look at your work and give you some tips and tell you what you're really doing well and not, because sometimes we think we're doing well and we're not. And I see that in portfolios. And so, yeah, and I totally agree with Nick. I was going to give a very similar answer to his, which was, to me, it's not UX if it doesn't incorporate at least a lot of user-centered design. If you are not involving the user through research, certainly testing, but preferably the early generative research as well. I don't know why we treat that as optional. It shouldn't be. But if you're not doing that, then I normally say you're doing web design, because otherwise, I mean, now web design to some people looks like UX design. I made a screen, I made a website, I made a bunch of screens, I made an app. But if you didn't involve the users, then to me, it's web or app design. Also, you can't say, I'm thinking about users, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. You're not going to be able to do that very well if you haven't researched them. You're putting yourself in the shoes of someone you're guessing about. So, be careful. I'm going to move a question up. Oh, what is this about? Nick is...
This is my user hat.
Three-penny
Now
opera?
our users are thinking. Right? Don't we all have one of these? Yeah, we've got user hats. Every UX person has a user hat. Now I know what my users are thinking, because I can just use my
Welcome
empathy.
and bienvenue. So I think that was cabaret and not three-penny opera. But anyway, I'm gonna throw in a question that came in the chat, because it's kind of a follow-up question to the previous one. So I'm taking it out of order, and I definitely have something strong I want to say about this. So what do y'all think about validating the task flow? Does that mean quantitative data? I hear so much about people saying, run a survey to validate your qual, and I hate that. So, Darren, how do you validate? Or were you talking about a task flow or a task analysis that was made maybe just off the top of your head, and then you validate it by running good qual?
Either or, because we're trying to give these short answers, but it's and I'm time boxing myself. Whether if you're guessing, that's not task analysis, so throw that out. Usually a task analysis with that's guesstimating. Just call it what it is. It's guesstimating. A real task analysis involves input from subject matter experts in many instances, where you're finding out what the tasks are, whether you're doing it from a contextual inquiry perspective, whether you gained it from interviewing, whatever the case is, you identified the tasks. And a lot of times we think we documented things right. That's one of the reasons why you have to go back and validate it, because you think you completed the task analysis and you're actually missing something. So until you go back, and I separate the first part of the task analysis from the validation, so you can stay, because you get one track minded. If you try to validate it at the same time that you're doing it, many times you can get it right to the point that you can, but sometimes you don't. And you don't want to find out that you didn't the hard way. And the hard way is you don't find out until it's too late. Now you got to double back. So take that task analysis and validating it. I would go through the steps. You think you have the steps of the task, and you have the task. The task is place order on Amazon. Just off the top of my head, what are the steps? Those are the subtasks. The steps of the task. You don't want to miss anything. That's where the micro experiences live, in those subtasks, and that's usually where the user experience goes wrong, is in the subtask. So check it out, go through the steps, no matter who you got the information from. Go and perform the task. Can you actually perform this task by following the steps that you have documented in your analysis. If you can't, then you're missing something. Pretty simple.
Cool. All right, cool. We're also going to throw in another follow-up question a little bit early, even though we have like 8 more questions after this. This is from new friend of the show, Chukuri, and he says, is creating a mental model from the Indi Young book the same as an optimized task flow? I would go with no.
Yeah, huge no.
Yep, very different things.
I'm deferring again.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Nick is eating his pen, so he's about to say something.
I'm kind of confused. Yeah. I can't tell you what an optimized task flow exactly is. I can tell you what a mental model is, and I'm pretty sure the two don't relate. But I'm not sure how.
They don't.
Maybe Debbie does.
Yeah,
No.
I've seen Indi Young's mental models thing, and I found it to be a very strange diagram. And of course, we just talked about diagrams with Abby Covert a week or so ago, so check for that episode.
Nice.
About her new book and all. I don't have it with me to hold up, but I found the mental model diagram to be a strange, confusing thing that I didn't feel like was actionable. I felt like if I put this together, then what am I going to do with or about it? Now, if you can do that, that's great. But I felt like a task flow and an optimized task flow were much more actionable. Like, holy crap, I know what I need to do about this. When I Googled for mental model diagrams, and every time I saw all of them, I was like, I'm not getting this. And I just didn't say anything to anyone because I felt so stupid, but I was like, I don't think I'm getting this. So I would say if you haven't watched our video on task analysis and optimized task flow, just go to YouTube and write deltacx task analysis. You should get 3 or 4 videos, and I would say check those out and see if you can answer your own question.
I've just had a quick think, and I think they both coexist. I think the mental model potentially informs or provides the bedrock for the optimized task flow or the journey or everything. You know what I'm saying? I think that's in wider psychology how that would work, if you know what I mean. The execution would be different, but the underlying is the same, the mental model.
That's where I was going to go. And in addition to that, I want to make sure the person asking the question, just saying this just in case, that don't get Indi Young's mental model illustrations and mental models confused. Indi Young did not create mental models. They pre-existed her. Mental models. Knowing the mental models of users is absolutely valuable.
Oh, shit.
No, we're on. We're on. My stream says healthy stream.
Uh-oh.
Darren, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Hello, I hear you guys.
I can hear you. Yeah. I can hear you, but I'm going in and out.
I can hear you.
No, okay.
Yeah, it's going in and out. It's pulsing.
Okay. It's not much I can do about that right now. I might be having an internet blip. Okay, this should be back. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I switched to my backup internet, which is a 5G hotspot, so I hope it will be good enough. I'm sorry, that was my internet complete. Like, I mean, could something else go wrong? Are they dropping a bomb on my house? I mean...
Don't tempt fate.
Yeah, no one drops a bomb on Sardinia. No one can even find it on a map. Yeah, I think I'm past my internet blip, and I must tell you, the internet blips for me are extra embarrassing because our home Wi-Fi is on wired fiber internet.
Wow.
And it still blips, and we've complained to the company, and they I don't even think they believe us, and I don't even know how to submit evidence to them other than to be like, go watch my YouTube show that died. Like, I don't know how to prove that we have these weird blips, and it's wired. It's copper wire.
I'll show you after this. We're going to run what's called a ping or a trace route, a ping in particular, and we'll leave it running on your machine overnight, and we'll keep the log and we'll show them. Also, with the trace route, we can show where the lag is, where the latency is happening.
I'll run a trace route while we talk about the next question. We need another question out here. Let's take a look at the next question. And apologies to the audience. Thanks for sticking with us. This one says, how do you handle being fired as a UX designer? Don't know how to handle this. Expenses and all. It's my first job. What's your advice?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is it's no different than being fired for any other job. Actually, so I take off the as a UX designer part. I feel your pain, but want to get that off the table. It just has to do with pivoting, hustling, making sure to continue to apply, picking yourself up, because it deals a mental blow. It's a mental blow, especially if it was unjustifiable. So you pick yourself up and you go forward. But yeah, it's no different than any other.
It does sound like the question asker is a contractor, because you're talking about expenses. So I wonder if that's slightly different. And if that is the case, being fired or having your contract terminated early is just one of those things that's part and parcel of being part of the flexible workforce. You're paid more, and either you're right for the job or you're not. And it's like paying somebody to come do work on your house. If they're not doing the work that you expect them to, you don't want to pay them to do it anymore. That's how we operate as contractors. Also, I would say that UX and digital is a tough world. Developing a thick skin, it's just part and parcel. And also be prepared to move on, because there's a lot of very dodgy UX out there. I quit a £100,000 a year permanent job as a senior UX designer with a McKinsey company. So really great job with loads of prospects and everything, because they just wanted me to sit there and wireframe all day. That's not going to get you the experience that you need. So what I'm saying is when you're building yourself in your career, being fired, moving around, it's all a good experience ultimately.
Yes. Yep.
And special thanks to Dr. Nick for telling me to run a trace route, because I see that the problem is in my house.
Reboot your router, guaranteed. Nailed on. Have you got the ISP router?
Yeah, we've got. My box is in the kitchen, but it'll kill the stream. But yeah. So I'm gonna run a couple of trace routes. Julian, I see your question, and we're going to have to put it on the end. We've got about 7 more questions before you, so I'm just going to drop the next one up here. And my only other advice for people who are fired, laid off, losing their jobs, contract ending, is I know it's hard for everybody. There's no way I'm going to say this is easy, and it's also #privilege, but the more you can get in your savings account, the better. And I know it's impossible for some people to save. They're just living paycheck to paycheck, and there is no savings. But where you can have savings, then when the times are lean and you're going a few months between jobs, then you can dip into that savings. So there's that. All right, good luck to that person. We fingers crossed for you. Sometimes I read this question before and I didn't get it, so maybe y'all can help me. Sometimes I run of what to do as a UX designer. When I was a UI designer, I just jump on tools and designs. How can I practice UX? I think we got that. Didn't we get this question already in another form? I feel like we've answered it.
Yes. Yeah, we did. Same answer for me. UX cycle of excellence. UX is it's light years bigger than UI. So you got a lot of work to do. You'll never run out of areas to grow in or things to learn about.
Okay, so I've put up the next question, which is, this might be a foolish question. How can I beat the feeling of not being enough and not doing better in UX in general?
Great question. Great question, and it's not foolish in the least. It's a very great question. Yep. So thank you for asking it. Everybody feels this, and it's certainly a sign of the times in 2022 and applies way wider than UX and digital as far as I'm concerned, because of the kind of the very social, transparent world that we're in. So that is absolutely undercurrent here. That whole kind of FOMO, what's the word? Thingamajig, imposter syndrome, all of that. Because never in our lives have our careers been so comparable and so transparent. And so there are kind of professional feelings that people are having that are brand new in this world, or relatively brand new, that didn't really happen 10 years ago, and that's a big deal in corporate life. So don't worry. Everyone feels it across the board. How do you beat that feeling? Whenever I'm comfortable, I'm in my professional competence, shall we say, but when I wasn't, I turned that anxiety into action, and I still do that in my private life. If I'm worried about something, I'll use that as motivation to get stuff done. So if you have that feeling, it might not be a valid feeling, but it's a good motivator. I wouldn't try to quash it and say, like, it's totally without merit. We can always be better, all of us. So just doing more true UX research into design. It's like any skill, whether it's me drumming or you're learning to drive a car or carpentry or another thing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. It's that simple. UX is a skill, and you have to have kind of like pilot hours. And so some of those hours are scary as hell. They're really unpleasant and they're not good. But ultimately, you're getting amazing quality experience and those kind of that flight time. And when you get thousands of hours, you end up being a bit like Darren, Debbie, and me, where you're like, it's okay if the plane propeller falls off because I know what to do. Do you know what I'm saying? That's a really crappy analogy. You know what I'm saying?
That's right? Great. That's great.
That's actually, we're doing that right now on the project I'm on. So it's kind of
the wheels have come off.
There you go. But we still got to get to the destination. That's the point.
Yep, and deliver everybody still alive at the end.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to piggyback on agree with everything Dr. Nick said, and I'll piggyback, and I'm going to refer to it again, the UX of excellence. It's funny, the 7th step of that process encourages you to be patient with yourself. Sometimes, especially if you tend to be a perfectionist, you're capable of, if you have that mindset, you're capable of holding yourself accountable to unrealistic expectations. You have to be patient with yourself. It's like ABG, always be growing. UX, we're subscribing to lifelong learning. You're always going to learn something. You're always going to grow. You're always going to see a place that you can improve. So know that that's just always the case, but always commit to doing the things that will continue to take you forward. We move like turtles in UX. And I know sometimes turtles can move fast, but the fastest turtle can't outrun any other animal pretty much other than a sloth. But as long as you're moving forward, good. But be patient with yourself. Don't expect too many people today. This is the microwavable age. And that's something, thinking about some of the things Dr. Nick already said. It's the microwave. Everybody wants everything now. I want to grow now. Be like Dr. Nick and Darren and Debbie now. No, we had to work to get there. And the same applies to everybody else. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to get your experience. You're going to have your hard knocks. You're going to have the propeller and get used to navigating in the midst of that in order to build the confidence for when the propeller falls off. Then the day will come where the propeller falls off and you're the one that's holding everybody together. But it's not going to happen earlier in the career. So.
All right, let's move on to the next one. As you can see on the screen, Chukwudi just asked a follow-up to his mental models question, and he wants to know, what situation can mental models be used, and when aren't you using mental models? Nick, you want to jump on that since this is so
I'll get
psych?
this one out of the way. Mental models are used all the time, either kind of overtly or not, and you can't get away from them. I think that the answer here is when do I apply them explicitly in my UX work? You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to give you a quick example without giving away any confidences, because I'm doing government work right now. We're doing a sign-up process, and it's a really big, important sign-up process. It used to be a paper process, so you can imagine what happens when you take a paper form, a governmental paper form, and effectively digitize it. There's two ways of doing that. You could either just make it digital, or you can think about actually what's the information you're trying to get from the person and design a better way of doing it.
Oh my God, it's like reading my book that I'm still writing.
Yeah. It's almost like we're doing real UX here. This is crazy. So if you were to just take that form and digitize it, which is effectively what may or may not have happened, obviously what that does is it does work with the current mental model, which is I need a form to fill in. But you're changing medium. You've also got a bunch of benefits that come with this, in terms of like conditionality and contextual help and all kinds of other stuff that you don't get in a form. So the mental model is of paramount importance, because not just the actual thing that you're researching and designing, but the bookends, the context of it is absolutely critically important. And you might consider that context, i.e. how somebody thinks about a thing already, you might consider that a mental model, right? So you've got a mental model for how you do flat pack furniture, right? You go to IKEA, you open the box, you get the instruction sheet and you follow it through. There's other mental models for doing flat pack furniture. And as I'm saying that, that's a really shockingly bad example, but there's different ways of doing this stuff. Okay, what you have to consider is what's the mental model of your users, and how does that apply to the thing that you're working on? If it's exactly the same, you don't need to really consider it. But if there's a shift, then you absolutely have to handle that in the experience through onboarding and contextual help, anything else. So it is kind of a big deal.
All right, let's take this next question. I can answer it in 10 seconds. And this one says, if someone sends a video question or audio question, how do you go about it? Do you watch it first, or does Video Ask transcribe it for you so it can be easier during the live stream? Video Ask, which is where most of the anonymous questions come through, it does give me a transcript. I probably would not watch a video first I would watch a video first before putting it live, just in case there is something unacceptable that someone has sent in, like asking a naked question or, some sort of unacceptable content. We have only received one video question in the entire history of the show, so I am not fully set up to deal with the video questions, even though we do make them available to people. And I think I've received one audio question in the entire history of the show. I think both were from Kayleen. So I would say the text questions are certainly easier for me to deal with, and depending upon what's in the audio and video, especially when I'm running the show alone, I might have to postpone answering that, because I would need to check it for appropriate content. All right, next we've got a question, and it says, recruiters are messaging me about a senior position at a company that didn't want me 3 months ago for a more junior role because I was too junior. I'm pretty sure I shouldn't bother pursuing this. I know who this is from. This person is still looking for their first job. Yeah. Darren?
Oh, God. I'm going to go on a recruiter's tangent, so I'm going to resist the urge to do that. Recruiters sometimes are in the middle. They don't know. I know some great recruiters. I always got to take an opportunity to say that. I know some phenomenal recruiters that take great pride and they do a fantastic job. Unfortunately, I think they are grossly outnumbered today by lazy people who just go through the motions, and then they're already in between a rock and a hard place, and they're going to invite you to the same spot. If you know that the company rejected you, you already know what's going to happen, especially for a position that's asking for more than what you applied for. Count it a learning experience and move on. That'd be my suggestion on that. Just move on.
Nick, something to add?
Is this person UK based or US?
US.
Or other? Okay. What happens here in the UK is there's a lot of spamming going on. I imagine it probably happens the same in the US too, where recruiters got a role, they need to fill it, and you just happen to be on their mailing list despite the fact that you've got a track record, etc. It's just blunt force, if you know what I mean. Everything else is exactly as Darren. I agree with Darren 100%. Like, it's not going to work out just because they've mailed you as part of a... Unfortunately, today's recruitment world, we are the product, if you know what I mean. They're shifting us as boxes, people. And that's just the way of the world. And it never used to be this way, but this is the way it is today. I think it's because margins have been destroyed and it's just now a volume game. But whatever happens, the candidate experience is ripe for disruption. And if anybody wants to fix that, I bet you can make a ton of money from it.
Yep, and let's put up Julian's follow-up question, which was, hey, real talk. If we're desperate to get into the industry, can we go for that if it's our only opportunity? And I'm going to jump on this one first because I feel like I haven't said anything in an hour, but it's just because I'm trying to fix my world behind the scenes. My thought is, you know, I got into some fights with people on LinkedIn a few years ago that led to me and other people blocking each other en masse, especially one person who was furious that I was telling people to not bother applying for jobs that they're deeply unqualified for. And this person was like, why are you being so negative? We should inspire people to apply for whatever they want and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up doing a show on it. It was like episode 12 or 15. It's really old. It's called That Job is a Stretch. Should I apply for it anyway? Now, there's a difference between having a year of experience and you're asking, should I apply for the job asking for 2 years of experience? That's a maybe. You know, some hiring managers will go, okay, you know, we're a little flexible, or we're not flexible. But when this is your first job and you're trying to break into the industry and the job wants 3 or more years of experience, not only does it not make sense, but it's not going to be the environment you want. Because if you come in as some sort of halfway to expert person, they're not going to train you. They're not going to support you. They're not going to review your work. No one's going to look at your work and say, oh, this could be better. Why? Because this is a mid-level or senior job already. We don't have to show you what to do. You came into a mid-level or senior job. So you think you want that, but I would tell you, you don't want that. You want to work in a medium to large company where there is someone from UX with at least 5 years of experience, hopefully a senior or lead or higher, who is going to devote time to looking at your work and helping you get better. That means the overinflated title is going to work against you, or going into a company as a UX team of one is going to work against you. So I know that everyone feels desperate to get their first UX job. My advice is have standards. And my other advice, and this is a big tough love thing, and not everybody wants to hear this, and I get that, but my advice right now is, it is so hard to get into UX right now that if UX is not burning in your heart and you're calling, you know, where every week, every month you see Darren's going through hell, he sticks with it. Nick's going through hell, he can't get away from UX. I go through hell, I still love it and want to work in it, even though it shits on me constantly. If UX is not burning in your heart, please find what does. Not because I'm trying to throw you out or because this is elitist. Thank you. But because, number one, you will be much happier doing what's in your heart. I spent my entire first 2 decades of my life thinking I wanted to be a genetic researcher. I aimed everything at that. I aimed all my education at that. I aimed my jobs at that. I aimed my internships at that. And then all of a sudden, I realized just wasn't in my heart the way creativity and strategizing and other things were. And I eventually stumbled my way to UX a few years later. So if it's not in your heart, if it's not burning in your heart, then please find what is, because otherwise you're up against what? 450,000 people enrolled in the Google UX course, and everyone thinks that, where's my job? The jobs aren't there. And you can tell because they keep asking you if you have 3 years of experience. So I'm sorry to have gone on a little bit of a sermon there, going with Darren's earlier gospel theme, but that's the you want real talk? Your question says you want real talk. Here's your real talk. Iñaki,
can I piggyback on that?
Yeah, I just want to say, Iñaki, I see your question, and we're going to add it to the end. Okay, sorry, Darren, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as a hiring manager, we just talked about this on my podcast. I'm doing a series right now about the job search world, or the job world in UX, from a hiring perspective, from a team building perspective, from a job seeking perspective. And hiring managers, you don't want your name to become mud. If you know that the job is asking for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you're applying to your first job, and you apply because somebody who's not interested in your well-being told you to apply for it. Stop getting mad at me, Debbie, and Dr. Nick. We're telling you what you need to know. You're good. We're looking out for you. We're not coddling you. Hiring managers, we remember you. If you were that terrible applicant, your name goes up in our UX post office. Your picture, I remember you. I remember every terrible applicant. I remember them. I tell stories about them. I don't want to see that person. You know you don't qualify. Keep going. Keep applying. We all had to go through the same thing when we got our first UX jobs. You just keep applying. You're not entitled to anything. I know people keep telling you you are. You're not. Keep applying. Keep making yourself better. But Debbie hit the nail on the head. Love it. If you love it, keep it coming. Then nothing will deter you. When you love it, nothing will deter you.
Nick?
I had a PhD. I was freshly defended my PhD in 2009, and I couldn't get an interview anywhere because I didn't have a portfolio. That was the bottom line, right? So anybody who thinks PhD, blah, 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 entitlement is not. I was on my starting salary in the UK in 2009 was £34,000 a year with a PhD. And I see people with a PhD, like we were talking about before we went on air, landing six-figure salaries in UX leadership roles when they haven't worked a day of UX. So we've at the higher top, at the senior end, we got our own problems up here.
And Julian's asking a follow-up question. The person who asked is asking a follow-up question. What are the best platforms for applying to entry-level jobs? And I said it doesn't matter. The jobs mostly don't exist.
No, I go one step further.
The problem isn't that you haven't found the platform where all these jobs are hiding. Even junior jobs that should be entry level are asking for 1, 2, 3 years. The jobs don't exist.
No. Well, I would honestly, the best advice I think I can give, even though I haven't looked for a first job for 12, 13 years, is I would go direct. Now, that comes with a whole world of pain in itself, because the brands themselves and their HR departments and their Teleos and all that crap, it's a horrible UX. It's a horrible user experience. There's no salaries, and some of these brands behave really badly. But by the same token, playing hunt and seek for a job, around recruiters isn't much fun either. So sometimes the direct route to the brand may get you that entry level because they may just be a bit more understanding of your blank slate, if you know what I mean, your willingness, rather than a recruiter saying, no, I'm trying to find the best candidate to present to my client. Could you see there's a subtle difference there? But it certainly is.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing before we move on, which is something that I've been saying more and more out loud, and I want more people to hear it, and I want more people to say it, and that is the more you hear about democratization, which is a positively framed euphemism. It's really the dilution of UX. The more you hear people saying, oh, we have to democratize UX, we have to let engineers do some design, we have to let product managers do some research, otherwise you're not inclusive, or product managers won't have empathy, or whatever they're gaslighting you with this week. And I've got lots about this in my book, lots of new content. Believe it or not, there's more new things to say. Every company that is pushing UX dilution through everybody's a designer, or let's let product managers do research, that's a junior job they didn't open up. Because somehow it's okay for us to take time and money to train a product manager on how to do research, but we're not going to open a job for a decently educated, decently knowledgeable starter UX person to get that training. We're not going to train the UX people. We're going to train the non-UX people. And this is a new thing. 5 years ago, we closed the door on newbie jobs. Now, not only do we still have the same door closed for newbie jobs, but we're giving the newbie jobs to product managers because they can't figure out who they are anymore. So if you are in UX leadership, it is your effing job to say no to democratization and dilution, and to say, if UX, remember, democratization and dilution is solved by hiring. You're not solving my problem when you let a product manager guess at the research. You think the product manager can do what Dr. Nick does? Don't insult
No.
Dr. Nick like that.
But do you know how many Debbies, Dr. Nicks, and Darrens there are available on the market, either permanent or contractually? They're like, I mean, I hate to say it, you can't get them, right? You can't even get somebody of 50% of that caliber. That's the problem, and that's why they're calling for democratization.
But that's also because we closed the door. We closed the door 5 years ago to newbies, and now we don't have the seniors that we need. And now they're trying to fix that by keeping the door closed on the newbies, but pretending that product managers will be our newbies. None of it makes sense. And for whatever crappy ass reason, these leaders, these UX managers and directors and leaders, are just turtles on their back, going okay, or they do say no, and they're ignored. What the hell company ignores its domain leaders and does something these people are saying, no, don't do that?
So what I'm now, the new messaging that I'm putting out into the world is this: because we lost the UX UI war, because UX is effectively dead at the C level and corporate levels, we have heads of design and who are doing heads of UX roles almost ubiquitously at this point. We cannot undo that for legal reasons and whatever. That horse has bolted. However, the solution, as I see it, think about UX. UX has always been, since day one, research and design. At the moment, we've got design at the top table, but not research. The solution here for all the big corporates is to have a head of research sitting alongside, not underneath, alongside a head of design. So that UX, which is research and design, is represented equally as research and design. What I'm now looking for is a head of research role to sit next to a head of design, and together we are the head of UX, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way forward. I'm convinced of it now. It's the only way out.
It's one way out. Okay, you got a question about... I asked you a question on UX psychology. You recommended I get my hands on an introductory book. I got Richard Gross' Introduction to Psychology. Other people said read Thinking Fast and Slow, Social Animal, Predictably Irrational, Art of Choosing, etc. What would you suggest? How helpful are they?
I would say they have value, but I would go with the Introduction to Psychology first. All day and every day. If you think of that as your Bible, that's your, like I said, foundational, that's your structure. Everything else, Thinking Fast and Slow, Hooked, all of those, what I'm going to call them popular psychology books, they are interpretations or kind of specialist stories or narratives, information about certain areas of psychology. So, you know, System 1 and 2 and all of that sort of thing. But that all relies on your basic understanding of psychology. If you read that stuff, you'll get some value of it because it's written in a popular psychology kind of way. Nice. But you'll get really deep, brilliant understanding, proper understanding if you've got the bedrock there. So if you really get that Richard Gross book in, really understand it, and then when you start reading these other books, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, that's leveraging so-and-so's theory of X or Y. And it will fit together better. It's a deeper understanding rather than a superficial understanding. I mean, if you don't read anything else and you just read those pop psych books, great. But if you can read the pop psych books after that introduction, you're totally winning.
Cool.
I'm gonna piggyback on Dr. Nick and throw one warning out there. Love everything you said because I don't think I own that book. I gotta go get it. Beware of books written by people that are trying to refer you to psychology and they are not psychologists. Please stop doing it. People don't, that's why I call it the cult of UX. There's people that are drinking Kool-Aid. They don't know what's in the Kool-Aid. They just drink the Kool-Aid and now they're all laid out somewhere complaining about what they can. When the truth of you don't have, when you first come into UX, you don't have a filter, but you need a filter because a lot of what I'm constantly saying and repeating lately, prior to 2011, there was practically zero misinformation being spread abroad with regard to UX. Today, it is everywhere. They're loud. It's dominant, and it goes viral. Debbie posts something brilliant, 10 people like it. Dr. Nick, she has a conference coming up. Fantastic.
Nobody knows about it.
Coming to the conference?
Concentric.
Dr. Nick posts.
Register.
Yes, Dr. Dr. Nick posts something fantastic. You look at it, 7 likes. Somebody says something utterly and sheer, just ridiculous and foolish, and it has 1,300 likes, and they didn't say anything. That's because people don't have a filter, and they want things to happen so fast, and they want things to happen just so without any merit. But that's not how things operate. That's not how they go. So please beware of these books that are written by people. It's not their area. They don't have a degree in it. Nothing. And the book is about psychology. And nothing.
Yeah.
And those are the popular books of the day. So.
And let's also, one more thing to add to Darren. I took 3 psychology courses in university. So these are university level cognitive psychology courses. And I will still tell you, I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychology expert.
Right.
I did not get a degree in psychology. I do not know what most people know who have studied psychology. Like, just because I know a couple of things and took some courses does not mean I am still extremely far from expert. So I always like to say I am an extremely amateur, unprofessional psychologist. I'm totally fake on that one. So everybody's asking, what psychology books do you recommend?
2 seconds.
Hold on, Nick's gonna grab some books. It sounds like.
Only because there's
he's
one
thinking
in
about.
particular.
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
Hang on, there's one. Go on, Darren. Sorry, I'll just get this.
Okay, while you're doing that, I was going to say I do have a book. I already mentioned uxuncensored.medium.com. I have a psychology. I have a critical thinking book recommendation list. I have an emotions book recommendation list. I have an information architecture book recommendation list. There's a CogSci. I think I mixed CogSci with interaction design and put them all on the same list. There's a whole ton of books out there that are actually worth our time. But don't forget what Dr. Nick said. Some of these books are not as foundational. And when you tap into something that lacks foundational elements, no matter what the topic is, you're going to be like, you're not taking it in from the root. And the more you understand about the foundational elements, the more likely you are to digest what's presented beyond that. So keep that in mind.
And I just want to mention quickly that we had a comment that says, no textbooks, please. And I would say, it's okay to read a textbook.
A lot of books are textbooks. A textbook just means that they use it in a class. A lot of textbooks, I'm a professor at what now? 5 universities now? Yay, represent again, yay. A lot of textbooks are selected after they've been written. A lot of books were not written to become textbooks. So please keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong. I don't care what the book is. If the information in the book is valuable, if it's going to help me expand my acumen, if it's going to help me strengthen my foundation, I don't care what the book is, and I'm gonna invest in it. So I would encourage people, don't discriminate. Nothing's too hard to read if you want to. Nothing's hard to do at all if you want to.
I just said you haven't even seen the book yet, and you decided it's too hard to read. I think that's unfair. Nick is holding up an introduction to psychology. Nick, who wrote that? I can't read it.
Okay, that's by Atkinson and Hilgard. Hilgard.
Okay.
This
Atkinson
or
and
previous.
Hilgard.
That's from Amazon. You can pick that up on Amazon for around £20, so maybe $40, $30. Various previous versions of this have been handed out at UK British Psychological Society approved undergraduate courses for 20 years. It's a great book. I'm ADHD. I'll hold that out right there. Me reading books is not a good, easy thing. So for the person who said I don't like reading, I feel you, man. I'm right on that page. Excuse the pun. Number one, this book's got lots of pictures in it, and it breaks it up a lot. Number two, no one's expecting you to read it like you're reading Game of Thrones or The Hobbit or something, like a novel, like front to back, right? I mean, you're going to read it in chunks, and you're probably not going to read it serially A to B, chapter 1 to chapter 10. You're probably going to zoom into chapter 7 because that's what you're interested in right now. And that's fine too. Don't worry about that. Just make sure you get through it all. But you might focus on cognitive to begin with because that's of particular interest. The other thing is, if you're not into reading, Debbie has an entire channel of video-based tuition. You can't get better than that. If you want to be spoon-fed UX, deltacx is where you need to be.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback on that. If reading is not something you want to do, don't forget, there's always other options. Audiobooks. There's so many different ways to get the information. Keep in mind, the information is the key, always the key to going to the next level. You get the information, you eventually practice it, you get the feedback, you keep going through that cycle. If you don't read, and let's put read in quotes. Let's say we just need to take in the information. So if it comes in video, do that. If it's in audio form, you get an audio book, do that. If you got the wherewithal, you're willing to read, do that. Whatever you do, if you're intending on being successful, got to take that info in some kind of way. Find the venue that works, to Dr. Nick's point. Find the venue that works for you and tap in. If you do not tap in, you are not going to grow. Period. You work, you grow.
Can I show you something quickly? This is a popular psychology book that somebody bought for me in Costco, right? Okay, I'm not recommending this book, okay? If I show you inside it, right? Hang on, where are we going? Where's my camera? It's over here, right? Sorry, I'm going the wrong way, right? How much information do you think you could reasonably get about a particular subject from this? It's a fantastic introduction to psychology, and if you're not a reader and you just want a top-down view and not learn any detail or get any real ideas, but you want just an idea of what it looks like, any old book like this will do the job for you. But it's a bit like a Ladybird book, you know what I mean? It's a bit childish, or it's just not going to have the detail that you need, or you'll identify and relate to and go, oh wow, that gives me an idea of something to use in my next project.
Afzal is asking if you recommend for the first book the Richard Gross intro or the Atkinson intro.
I don't know the Richard Gross book, so I can only recommend the one that I know.
Oh, and to Sarita's point, for those of you who are looking to get books but you don't want to spend the money, totally get that too. Goodreads.com, you can actually read books for free. Goodreads.com. Look up a book title. The book is there. I think you access them electronically, and you go from there. So you don't have to. I like buying books, but everybody's not like that. So
now I'm going to.
By the way,
oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking at the Richard Gross index on Amazon. I can't tell you anything more than this, but on the face of it, if you've got that book, it seems like it'll be something that will work for you. I can't say anything more than that, but it seems to cover the right bases.
Table of contents looks good. Okay.
You found it? I'm trying to find it.
It's called Psychology, the Science of Mind and Behavior.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to put up the next question, and I think we're going to have some long answers to it. So good thing we've got another 45 minutes. This question says, how do you incorporate research into the 2-week sprint with other design activities? I read a lot into that question. That question has a lot of information in it.
I know you have to plan carefully, that's for sure.
Are you hearing it? Are you hearing? Do you hear what I hear?
Well, I'm going to give the quick one, and I'll let Debbie or Darren give the more involved one. If it's
I'll give the simple answer. I probably got the shortest one. Oh, go for it.
How do you know? Nick, go ahead.
Because I'm saying, in a 2-week sprint, the first week you can do the research, and then the second week you do the design, if you know what I mean. That's one way that does work. I've actually done it where you do research and design in each week of the sprint, in both weeks of the sprint. But that's a simple answer. That's how I've seen it work.
Darren?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about how my contribution will be the planning.
I'm with you.
You're working in sprints. You have to, the way to make UX work with agile approaches and sprints is you have to plan accordingly within that sprint. Plan very, very carefully. Only commit to what you know you can do within that sprint. And if you're going to do research during that sprint, plan it out. A lot of times UX actually operates outside of the sprint, but it sounds like you're sprint. So if that's the case, plan. Don't over plan. Don't overcommit. Even though people may push you, they may prod you. Don't you do it. Commit to what's going to be done within those 2 sprints. That's doing the research. I used to do it all the time. When I was at Writer, in particular, is the one that comes to the forefront of my mind. Going out, doing a bunch of contextual inquiry, coming back, getting all that data, analyzing that data, coming back, and then presenting the synthesis of that data during the retros. And then when the next sprint, then you make the commitments for the next sprint, and then I'm only going to tell you what I'm doing during this sprint right here. No more. You can plan on the side, on your own, but don't you publish that to the team. You only publish what you're going to do within a given sprint. That's my general recommendation.
Yeah,
it can be done.
I'm more in the Darren box on this one because I'm concerned about what kind of research you can get done in days or a week if this is generative. Now, if you're telling me, oh, well, this is just, usability testing. This is,
that's what I'm referring to.
Right. That's what I think Nick is saying. Like, hey, we've got a 2-week sprint where we're going to do some design, some quick unmoderated usability testing. Then we're going to brush up our designs, maybe try to do another round of that. Sure. If this is just some design and it's well-defined and you're working from good research and you know what you're making, then I think you can get somewhere in that 2-week sprint. But I agree with Darren. This goes back to who did this planning, who estimated this time, because typically this is the time UX was given, and it looks nothing like the time UX needs. And even if you needed 3 weeks instead of 2, that's not a crime. And I've been saying, if 8 engineers needing 8 weeks to do something is normal and not big engineering up front and not sacrilegious, then we've got to let one UX person spend more than a week or 2 on something. It's so illogical. It's just, and all of these things that people do to minimize and cut down UX, they're all illogical. They don't stand up at all. As soon as I say, well, how about we do that to your domain? How about we take your engineering team and we just give you 1 developer and 1 QA and you get 2 weeks?
Can I add something though? We've got to be very, very careful here as UX folk, because many people won't remember the older days of UX, but UX was often cut out of projects. We mustn't forget this. There came a time when agencies were completely overplaying it. And going, oh, well, great. And it was like just sticking their hands in the client wallet, basically. And people said, screw it. I'm going to save that month. Wow. Yeah. I'm going to save that time. I'm going to cut it out. Everyone forgets that because no one was here. We were, and it's a deal. So there is a Goldilocks amount of formality. You know what I'm saying? And there are sometimes, I've seen some of the stuff going on in chat where you've got stakeholders screaming at you, I need designs, I need stuff. We've all lived in that world and we know, and it isn't as they tell you in the textbooks on the boot camps, because sometimes you've got to hustle, you've got to keep the stakeholder happy, and sometimes that means doing something you don't want to do or isn't the right thing to do. That's the big boy truth of it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I've been saying all this has to be documented and documented as risk. Hey, I really need 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do better work, higher quality work, to have higher quality outcomes, to help the team meet its goals. But instead of the 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever that we needed, we got 3 days, 1 week. I mean, I've been on projects at Fortune 200s where they said, hey, we need this thing and we need your final wireframes in 2 days. And that was the first I'd ever heard of the entire project. And they were going to give me 2 days to do it. and it's a name you'd all know. And that, to me, you have to document that as risk. I can give you something in 2 days, but it's probably not that great. And what is this rush anyway? So I think we have to start having these conversations more, especially with our management and leadership, about getting the leftover crumbs of time.
You know what? Yep. I can't say too much, but this is something that's very relevant to me right now. You know, I've got the validation today. I can't say anything more. I told you, Debbie, before we joined, you know, sometimes you're going to tell people stuff, don't do this. And for other good reasons, which you are not privy to. You know, I call them dark forces, but it might be, you know, the CFO or the CMO. The CMO's got a campaign going live. It might be there's government legislation going through the houses. Maybe there's a really big, important reason that this stuff has to happen to a timetable. And unfortunately, we get squeezed at the bottom of that of that. So I'm just being a realist here. I just want to just find a little bit of counterbalance here. That's all. The world of UX is very imperfect, and the world of kind of digital is even more imperfect, as is agile delivery. And once you throw those all together, it's messy.
Yep.
You just got to learn how to live in the mess.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to jump to the next one, and thanks for all of that. Quick reminder to everybody, don't forget to go to deltacx.com/links to see all the links related to our show, our schedules, our free Slack and free Discord communities, and how to send stuff up in for some of our shows. Don't forget to check out the Concentric Conference, where Darren will be delivering his talk, deltacx.com/concentric. It's in about a month. We've unfortunately, I think due to the economy, had very few people sign up for some of the sessions. So we might be moving some of the sessions into the new year to try to give economic things hopefully a little chance to rebound. Speakers, check your emails. Okay. What?
See on my board up here, it says State of UX 2022. You probably could see it till it focused. I'm just in the process of updating my deck on that. If you'd like, and if you need slots or you want me to present, I'll happily do a session for you.
Thank you. We have the opposite. Right now we have lots of wonderful speakers and sessions, and people aren't signing up for them, perhaps because they are unaffordable. So I would say if that's something you would like to turn into one of our shows, I would love to have you on doing it as the show.
I would do it absolutely free.
Well, if we'll do it as a show, let's you and I talk about it. But I'm not adding any speakers to Concentric because I can't get people to sign up for it. And I'm assuming that's true for other conferences as well, because I'm supposed to speak at a conference later this month, and I got an email today from the organizer kind of bitching me out for not promoting the conference more on my social media. I didn't promote it at all. It's not really for my target audience, so it didn't make sense for me to push it too hard because I don't think any of you would want it. But they wanted me and my expertise there, and I just felt like he's probably having a hard time getting the signups that he wanted, just like I'm having the same problem too. The only difference is I don't blame my speakers for not pushing it enough. I blame the economy for not making it as affordable to people as I thought it would be in April when I planned the event.
You know what?
I think there's another factor.
What?
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Nick.
No. You go ahead. Go.
I've been like monitoring. I've just been watching the dynamics of conferences for several years now, and the average conference usually has a lot of fluff. I mean, it's amazing. We'll come in and all they'll do is talk about a bunch of case studies, and that's it. I went to the research ops conference. That if you went online, it was free, and a bunch of people were in person, and I think they paid $85. I don't remember the exact amount. And it was done in New York, just about, I think it was in May or June. No problem signing up. People don't. It's like earlier we were talking about how truth doesn't go viral, but fluff does. People want fluff, and the more real, like somebody said earlier, real talk. People don't want real talk. On average, they don't. And if you offer something that will stick to the ribs, people are not. They just don't gravitate toward it. And even when you apply to speak at conferences, a lot of time, Debbie is the only conference. Well, I can't say Debbie's the only one, but she's definitely one of the main ones. You apply to speak at Debbie's conference. Debbie is all over your topic. If it has substance, you present a topic with substance. I'm going to call somebody out here to Midwest UX. You're not going to get approved to speak at that. The more fluff that's there, the more likely you are to be approved to speak. I was some things I won't even bother. I've been helping some people pick their conference topics recently, and it's amazing how people gravitate to the fluff. The fluffier it is, the more microwavable it is, the more it does not hold the attendees accountable. The more likely it is for people to embrace it. And the more real it is, the more adult it is, frankly, the more emotionally intelligent it is, they don't want it. And so even a lot of the conferences are about making money. Debbie's trying to get the word out to help the discipline. She's charging So what? It's worth it. She didn't charge $800 for one session. Some people are doing that. And
We have
people show up.
discounted prices for people who are not in a great financial position or live in a country where their money doesn't translate well. We're charging those people $20 per workshop. And I planned a conference this year that is all workshops. Everything is 2 hours or longer with an expert to teach you depth on one particular topic. And we've had so few people sign up. It's probably the last time I'll do the conference, because what happened was everybody's on LinkedIn and here and wherever going, there's no good UX education. I took the Google UX course. I can't get a job. And we look at their portfolios and we go, you don't know how to do stuff. And I created a conference where you're actually going to learn to do stuff. And when I opened up registration, I found a whole bunch of people signed up for the video replay only, which would only be parts of sessions, because some sessions are going to be interactive and they're going to happen outside of where we're recording them. And when I wrote to some of those people to learn more, because I'm a researcher at heart, everybody's like, yeah, I could just watch a video later. And I was like, well, wouldn't you want to come to this workshop and, you know, have this person teach you and have the opportunity to ask questions and have them and people were like, I can watch the video later. And people wanted to pay $1 for the entire week's worth of workshops, because to them it was something that should be a free YouTube video that they can watch later. And to me,
No.
What can I tell you? This is going to be the last year of this conference.
I would say this, and apologies to the younger audience listening, because I don't mean to be ageist at all. I'm just describing what I see. The way that younger generations learn is fundamentally different to the older generations. It just appears that way. And I would suspect that the reason why people want video after the fact is so they can fast forward through it, because you can't fast forward reality. This is an attentional kind of, you know, it is. It totally is. That's my hypothesis. That's what I suspect. Right?
That's good.
Well, we've got a half hour left. I should put up a question, but go ahead, Nick. What was your last thought there?
No. I mean, and the other thing is that as Darren said quite rightly, most of these conferences, the quality of speaker it becomes a self-promotion, like a peacocking thing of look how great I am, and it's never. I'm not ashamed to say that I get 90th percentile feedback in the conferences that I've done. I get very high feedback because I give people stuff with actionable takeaways from a place that they know is real. Right, I'm authentic, and the work that I've done is validatable, and not meant like you two can both say that. Yeah, you can't say that about everybody pitching their stuff on a stage.
And these people, a lot of them don't want to hear what we got to say. If everybody signing at Debbie's conference had 3 to 5 years of experience and was all engaged in self promotion, the signups would be off the charts.
Darren, we got Dan Berlin. Dan Berlin is going to do a 7-hour full day on beginner research for beginners, and I can't get anybody to sign up for that. Dan Berlin is going to teach research. Like
okay, have you tried again?
But if you
sorry, dude, it's the lag. It's killing me.
Sorry.
Go for it. But you got this other guy who's. He worked at Amazon, so that makes him a god. Not he worked at Google, makes him a god. Not, but he has 5 years of experience, and everybody is like bending over backwards looking at his content, and the content is nothing. I've seen some of the content. It's just amazing. It's amazing. The inmates are running the asylum has flipped. Now it's not just the stakeholders; it's the people within the discipline.
By the way, that's another great book. The Inmates Are Running the Asylum. You should read that.
Yes,
people.
It is.
It's a great book. Really easy read. Fantastic.
Yes, it is.
One of my first UX books or HCI books. Yeah.
So anyway, I think we're going to end up moving some of the sessions to maybe the spring to give us a little bit more time to get the word out. And I don't want to cancel any of the sessions. We're going to try to move them and see if we can get more people to sign up. But every time we've been posting it to LinkedIn, it dies in the algorithm. And I've tried posting it a whole bunch of different ways. I've tried doing a text post, a picture post, a link post, only do a LinkedIn event. I can't get it to stay. It only stayed afloat in the algorithm the day I posted a picture of my dog with it. Who remembers that one? Who remembers the post for Concentric? The post for Concentric that had a picture of my dog stayed afloat in the algorithm because it's a great picture of Teseo. But yeah, I'll find a picture.
Have you considered like a Facebook advertising thing? I know it costs money, but Facebook as a, I think that just from the UX psychology group, I think there's a lot of people
Nick, I've tried
on
these
Facebook.
things in the past. I've tried these things in the past. I'm not going to give Facebook any money anymore. I've tried some LinkedIn advertising. I've never gotten anything from any of it. And I think especially right now, the economy just hit everybody. They've been laid off. They can't find a job. And mostly what I'm finding, sorry, everybody, we'll get back to your questions in a moment. Mostly what I'm finding is that people just don't see value to it. They think this could be a video that I can watch later. And I even asked a few people, like, why wouldn't you come live to have this person teach you? And they were like, well, I don't know who that is. So, you know, I don't. And I'm thinking, you can freaking find out who these people are. If you go to LinkedIn, you know, the list of people I got to teach people: Danielle Cooley, Kyle Susi, Larry Marine, Stephanie Walter. I already said Dan Berlin. It's just unbelievable. And Angie Bourne. It's unbelievable that these are people who have all verifiable backgrounds and wrote good descriptions of what their thing is going to be about. It's not like, what is this going to be? And people aren't signing up. So, you know, that's it. It's the last. That's it. The last.
If it's any consolation, over the past month, I've been offered 2 or 3 different free tickets to conferences from places who basically can't give them away at the moment. So it's not. I don't think it's just Concentric. I think it might be being felt in the wider conference world.
It seems to be in the wider conference world. I'm very interesting to see what happens with. I'm doing a full day workshop with Tech Circus, and I already convinced them to before they even sent it live. I convinced them to drop the price on it. And so, you know, at this point, neither Tech Circus nor I are in it for the money. And I'm curious to see how many people will sign up for that. I'm doing a one-day version of my Transforming Toward Customer Centricity for them on November 2nd. And, you know, even if I didn't get paid for it, like at this point, I don't even care. Like, where's the people who can hear what I have to say? So I'm curious, especially because usually Tech Circus has a good mailing list. They have a good social media presence. They can get some people's attention. I'm really curious to see if their marketing machine can get anybody to sign up for this, because they priced it less than I've got it priced, you know, like, so no, back to the question. Sorry, everybody. We went so off tangent. We forgot we're live. Hi. I'm looking to get my first job in UX design. How do you navigate within the industry to specialize in fields such as CX and service design? Who wants to talk about becoming a specialist?
I'll jump in on this one first. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Nick.
No, you go. It's good. I can fit in anywhere. It's fine.
I'll keep my response short on this one. I think what I have to say is on the short side. Once you get your first job, first thing that comes to mind is your trajectory will always be determined by where you work. You could get your first UX design job at between one of 1,000 different companies and be set on different trajectories, some that will help you to grow faster than others. You may or may not be afforded entry into CX and service design as a result of that. And CX and service design are usually something you really can only ascribe to once you've been involved after a while in UX. So this is going to be a time-based thing. So again, strap in, learn about the discipline, build yourself, be patient with yourself, and go forward, because you will not be ready for service design more than likely for some time. And CX is a different animal as well, the way that it's being practiced. So get ready for the long haul. Everybody who have the microwavable mindset, do yourself a favor and lose it, because it doesn't amount to anything and it will cause you to get burnt out. if you hold on to it.
And just a quick reminder that we have 6 or 7 questions left and 23 minutes. So we're going to have to switch to the lightning round version. Nick, anything to add to that before we move on?
All I would say is forget about specialization. Kind of as Darren is saying, you will naturally be exposed to things that you have an aptitude for, or that you like, or that you're just good at, and that's what will drag you in that direction naturally. So just keep on at it, like Darren is saying, and these things will present themselves to you. Personally, I think service design is really dull. That's just me.
I think it's cool.
It is.
All right. So, and my advice is you've got to get good at something first, and so focus on things in order. So this question says, what is the best way to do a structural audit while trying to redesign a website's information architecture?
Well,
Nick,
okay, I'll smash this one out quickly.
Go.
Because I love IA questions because no one asks them anymore. How do you audit your IA? You do a card sort. That's how you do it, and it's all about agreement. Effectively, you want to find out, does everybody else's mental model, referencing the earlier discussion on mental models, do people's mental model of this information architecture, be it navigation or products or whatever it is, do they have commonality? Do they have agreement? Do people all have the similar mental model? So the classic one is, platypus. Is it a mammal or is it a bird or a duck or whatever it is? And it's both, and it's the IA nightmare of nightmares. That's the best way. The only way it's done in today's modern world, when it's done, is using Chalkmark, TreeJack, the Optimal Workshop product. And I haven't done a physical card sort in over a decade, because it sucks and it's painful and the analysis is really hurty. And literally, when IA gets done, I think Optimal Workshop is the. I think User Zoom and a few of the others have card sorting functions. So if you've got access to licenses with that, then check out card sorting.
Yeah.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, and
Darren,
I know user testing is real. Yes, he said the same exact thing that I was going to say. There was another resource that I looked at recently that I'm trying to see if I can. I'm not going to be able to find it, but there are some free solutions out there that you can get to help with your card sorting and with your tree testing. What was that free one you
just tried? Manuel just did a free one for tree testing, and I forgot what it was called.
UX, it's UX something, but God, that opens up a can of worms.
I don't remember.
Let me tell you, there, talking of can of worms though, because IAs, I love them. I've got loads. I've got quite a few really big bastardy ones in my portfolio, which is probably why I don't get jobs, because people don't know what they're looking at. But IAs, I find IA a lovely challenge, because they either just fall into place and it's black and white and it's binary, right? And you're like, okay, I've nailed it when I'm there and I've got 85% plus agreement. Or you're hovering around 50% agreement and the world is a nightmare and there's no order you can put this stuff into to make it work. And that's like one of the sort of circles of hell. So that's why IA work gets fun, because it's almost like a complex challenge. It really can become super difficult. It used to be a dedicated role, and I do not know why we've lost it.
I do. Anyway, let's go to the... I want to go to the next question.
Yeah,
it's going to light everybody on fire, and we've got more questions than time. So let's switch to lightning mode. Sorry, we went off on a conference tangent. This one says, I'm finally doing usability tests on prototypes to gain insights about the product. First time we do this, I'm always worried about asking the right open questions and waste company money on participants. How can I get confident? On that note, I'm strong in UI, but sometimes I hate UX because I'm not a logical person.
Okay, I'll jump in on this one first. You recognize that about yourself, so that's a very EQ thing to do. But do you really hate UX? Because if you're still, I sort of question that a little bit, because I don't think you'd be on this call. Number one, I don't think you can figure this out. So you're going the right direction. Generally speaking, you're going to build confidence by when you design people don't realize that research has to be designed. When you put your research together, make sure that you're bouncing that off of your peers, other people on your team, hopefully members of your team, so that people can let you know what's going on. They can critique some of these questions to make sure that the questions are going to be more spot on. That's when a lot of companies will not hire a lot of people, and that's where they smart for it, they suffer for it, because hopefully it will be somebody more senior you could bounce your efforts off of, get it all nice and polished up and clean, and then go out and deliver the testing. You'll find that confidence will come out of repetition, getting feedback, getting that constructive criticism, and then making those modifications, and then seeing the successes that come out of it. That's where confidence is going to come from. But don't say that you hate. I don't really believe you hate UX. I really don't believe that. And if you're not that logical, you can always change it. That's where you go and build your EQ, because that'll help you to make those conscious, deliberate changes with self. Be part of what EQ is all about. And I'll end it there.
I was just thinking, if you don't hate UX, stick around, you will. But that's just me being a cynical right, thank you. Okay, so I'll be super quick. We're doing usability tests on prototypes. We need to break that down just a little bit, because, again, what are these prototypes? Are they journeys? You talk about you're a designer, strong UI. Are you looking to understand the visuals? Is it, what sort of test are you doing? That's a really big question to ask here, because if it's, do you like design A or design B, and you're asking open questions, then yes, I can understand your concerns. But if you're testing a journey, it should be task-based, and you're trying to find needs and pain points on that journey.
Yes.
So that's a really, really big distinction here. A lot of people just think research is research, and it's, when you do that kind of, I don't know what you want to call that, like preference research, do you like design A versus design B? Me as a researcher, that's a hospital pass. It's a difficult, tough ask, because you need a massive sample to get anything around that. And it's not really generally what we're here to do. I mean, we're interaction people, not necessarily visual. But I think you don't need to be a logical person to be in UX, but you do have to have an attention to detail. Me, as I said, I'm neurodiverse. I've had to bake in a whole bunch of coping mechanisms, like double checks into the work that I do, so that I don't muck up. You know what I'm saying? So that I am structured, so that I have got recruits and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry, you can still be a very creative person. Just make sure you're taking care of the important business when you need to.
Yeah, and what I would add here is I did a video I did 2 videos on unmoderated studies, so you can always go on YouTube to the micro lessons playlist and look for setting up unmoderated studies and analyzing unmoderated studies. That might help you there. I'm also going to be the weird one here that says, if you hate UX some or all of the time, please don't do it. If you love UI, stick with UI. But if you hate UX, it might not be for you. Why would you do something that you sometimes hate? If you're not a logical person, I'm worried that unless you can improve that, UX is not going to be a strong match to you. And it's going to be a source of ongoing conflict or frustration, because deductive reasoning, logic, critical thinking, these are all really important for UX work. So please, have a chat with yourself on this direction. I'm going to put up the next question because we're running out of time. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in and say something. If you hate UX, just remember, UX is about people. It's about human beings, people like you, me, your loved ones, your family. When you think of UX like that, you won't hate it anywhere near as much.
You still might. But anyway, I was gonna joke. You sometimes you hate UX. You should hear what UX is saying about you. Ba-da-ba! Okay, so back to the next question. How can one get a UX mentor? We did a show on this, and really, there's a lot of sources for mentors. But whatever source you use, make sure you're checking those people on LinkedIn, and you're making sure that they have at least 5 years of experience in the area in which they're going to mentor you. If you are looking for research mentoring, do not pick the person who has 5 years UX UI. So make sure they've got at least 5 years in the specialized area where you expect mentoring or coaching, and make sure you go into that with a specific goal. Otherwise, no one will know what to talk about. Who wants to add to that?
I'll jump on this one real quick. I did a series, I believe there's 3 or 4 episodes on my podcast called Demystifying the World of UX Mentoring, because it is, like we were talking about earlier, It's an area where people are trying to they're into self-promotion. They're trying to engage in this UX. They have no real care. They're not concerned at all about your development as an up and coming UXer. And then there's a couple of surprises that are in that show that I won't bother to mention. But go ahead and check it out. But mentoring, in short, it's not what people make it out to be. And if you come through the door and, I want to do the next thing I need a mentor, you're making these really quick knee-jerk decisions, and you got to understand what mentoring is, and you have to make sure that you're ready to be mentored. A lot of people want a mentor and they're not ready, and when they hear something that's mentor oriented, they reject it, and then somebody coddles them and they go, great, that's my mentor. Real men don't coddle. So make sure you're ready before you go down that road, and I'll leave it there. The rest is, you can hear it on the episodes.
All right, we got 3 questions.
Oh, and avoid ADP. I
minutes.
forgot. Avoid ADP list. Got to get that in
I
there.
knew that was
avoid
coming.
ADP
I
list
knew
at
one of
all.
you had to get that in.
Or at least
Listen,
be very
I-
careful about
Controls.
those people.
Can I just
Yeah,
add,
at least be
though,
careful
I've
because I know
never-
some.
Yeah, Nick?
Go on, finish off.
Oh, I was going to say there are a few people. I got to say this. There are a few people who work with them that are really good at what they do. They're truly passionate about the discipline, but the organization as a whole is nothing but a vehicle for UX celebrism. That's all it is. And I get trolled by the people behind the organization. You can't troll somebody that cares about the well-being of the discipline and turn around and claim you're doing something for the discipline. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and I'm not being trolled because I blocked the guy who runs ADP list on LinkedIn, 2-3 years ago now, so
They found ways to troll me outside of LinkedIn.
sweet.
So I think I'm fairly certain I speak for Debbie and Darren as well as myself. I don't think any of us have ever had a formal mentor, but we've
Bingo.
all had lots of mentors on our journeys. Do you know what I'm saying? I've had lots of leads and seniors who have, or even creative directors who have inadvertently mentored me by giving me amazing advice and feedback on stuff. And so, as the way I see it is yeah, it'd be great to have a mentor that's formal and not associated to your organization, but I would expect mentoring as part of your job. That's what I think. If you want to get into this business, and when you get in, the quality of your mentoring in your first and second jobs is going to fundamentally define who you are as a practitioner for much of your career.
Yep.
All right, let's jump on the next one. We have 3 questions in about 10 minutes. This one says, what do you do when still doing UX research and the back-end devs and the stakeholders are pressuring for a design so they can start developing? Very common.
I'll jump on this one first. You encourage them, continue to wait. I don't have to speed up because you're anxious. And like Debbie said, it's very common. Hey, come on, I need something. We're sitting around. I mean, literally, this is a quote. We're sitting around. We don't have anything to do. You got to give us something. That's not how you produce viable things. They're going to have to learn to be patient. They're going to have to get constructive and find something else to do when they're waiting. We don't design things. We're not order takers from anybody. Definitely not from a bunch of people who want us to do something just because they want to be busy. That's garbage. That's sheer and utter garbage. And that's when the thick skin and the toughness that's needed to be a UXer comes to mind. I'm not doing this because I'm saying you need to go duke it out with somebody, but you do need resilience. We need to be strong. We need to have a good sense of fortitude, and we need to know how to excel at UX. Eventually, you're going to have to learn how to put your foot down, and they're going to have to wait.
So,
that's
Nick.
it.
I've been exactly where Darren is, had the thick skin, been in the retro, and been absolutely nailed to a cross. Okay, this does happen. Okay, what I'm saying is a developer is worth a lot of money in terms of day rate and sitting around. Right, they're an expensive resource to do nothing, and if your developers are doing nothing, a delivery manager is going to have something to say about that. It's a red flag. It's a big deal. The bottom line here is I think what Deb and I and Darren all agree on is dual or tri-track stuff. And the bottom line, and go look at Debbie's videos on this stuff. But the point being is it gives you that time to do your work so that you don't have these guys breathing down your neck. So you get a couple of sprints or however long that is to do the UX work before they start doing their work. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Now, what you can do is in your next retro, suggest it nicely, positively, not aggressively. And see if in sprint planning you can agree to have a couple more. You can work in a research sprint that works ahead of a design and or dev sprint. That would be the most ideal way.
Yeah, the thing that I wrote down, I just wrote down one word on my notes here, which is planning. You know, if people are saying, where's the thing, it sounds like there's just no plan. It sounds like there's no roadmap, there's no project plan. A project should not be starting without the plan. The plan says, okay, it's going to take X amount of time for us to get that documentation from legal about some of the things we need to watch out for related to this project. And then UX is going to do these tasks, X, Y, Z, Q, and they need 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is. And then engineering is going to get this piece 3 weeks in and this other piece 6 weeks in. So engineering between this and this and this, hey, because it's a freaking assembly line, engineering, this is when you're going to see something. Now, if there's a plan in place, engineers shouldn't be freaking out that they have nothing to do. And by the way, an engineering team with nothing to do is lying to themselves, because every engineering team can be working on performance. They can be working on code refactoring. They can be working on, I mean, they've got to have a backlog or icebox full of bugs. They could be going and checking on bugs. They could be going and reading some of their app ratings to see if there's something buggy that we haven't figured out. So an engineering team with nothing to do is an engineering team lying to itself, because there's always something that an engineering team can improve. Hey, engineering team, go make the database queries 0.1 seconds faster. There's always something that can be done. Hey, engineers, go test our stuff in browsers with ad blockers on and with a screen reader. Engineers always have something to do. Don't let them lie, but that you need better planning so that they're not acting like you're the problem. Okay, 2 questions left. We might run a little late. Sorry if Darren can't stay. Hello, my design manager has told me that to be promoted to a senior, I would have to do more sharing of my work at company level, more visibility, and do workshops. I'm skeptical. Thoughts? I feel like the first 2 sounded pretty good and the workshop sounded not good. Nick?
Yeah, I can see why you're skeptical, but on many levels this isn't that unfamiliar or I think unreasonable. The workshops, I agree with Debbie, it's a little more questionable, but raising the profile of UX, being that a more visible, accessible face, sharing of insights and helping make the company become more user-centric by surfacing that stuff, I would absolutely see that as a kind of a senior level kind of a behavior to exhibit. So I tend to agree with them. I hope that isn't bad or hurtful. Yeah, the workshops is a bit iffy. But again,
I would ask workshops on what?
Well, you know, if this person that's asking is a researcher and it's some kind of senior research position, then kind of, you know, that fits in nicely. If it's not, then it's a bit more uncomfortable, right? It's more of that democratization stuff that we're talking about.
Right, which we don't want.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know what? I think that's not... All of my success at a corporate level comes down to the visibility of my work. And that's... I mean, I think Debbie, Darren, anyone will tell you that what we do, I would literally say 50% is the actual work and 50% is the sharing. I mean, it's really that important. You know, it's as important to share it and socialize it as it is to do it, to learn it. Okay, maybe it's 51-49. You get where I'm coming from.
Darren, something to add?
Yeah, when I read this, what hits me is it sounds like they want you to demonstrate the visibility, as Dr. Nick said, but there's the issue of thought leadership. I think that they want to, so I would suggest bouncing that off of your manager, confirming if that's the case, and then come up with ways to do thought leadership that might be inclusive of those things and potentially some other things. And one quick idea, many companies, not doing it at the current company I'm at, but at many companies I've worked at, I've always talked about the importance of having a UX, and that UX intranet is a place where you can share case studies of the work that you've done and the value that you've brought to the company. Now you've got, I view an intranet as an extra employee that you pay. So you've got this information that's out there where you're sharing information about how the UX team operates. You're defining UX so it helps to impact to vault forward the UX maturity of the organization and to constantly and regularly demonstrate the value that you're bringing. That's another thing that you could do that will take care of at least two of the things that were on that little checklist. But from a workshop perspective, maybe it's not necessarily just a workshop. Maybe that was an idea, but just demonstrating thought leadership. And there's a lot of ways. Lunch and learns are a way to demonstrate thought leadership. Do them quarterly. And when people know there's going to be a UX workshop, lunch and learn this quarter, they know and they get that. Now you've accomplished the goal. But I do make sure you fall in love with these things, because if you do it just to get the position and the love isn't there, that's going to show through also.
Good point. Yeah. And I would check what these workshops are, because like saying we need more workshops is like saying you need more medicine. Well, which medicine and for what? So I think just saying more workshops sounds a little bit strange. I would want to get more details on what they mean by that. Be careful of design by committee and other aspirologies. Darren, we've got one more question, and I'm worried. Do you have a hard stop in 2 minutes?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I was
right.
blocked off until 3 o'clock, so I'm good.
Oh, you're the bestest. And Nick, you can stay a little bit?
Yep.
All right. So sorry, again, my fault between the tangent on the conference and all of my tech problems. Thank you so much for giving extra time. And for those of you joining us who for staying through the whole thing, we've about 20 people. So this is our last question. It was a bit of a story from Carla on LinkedIn. And Carla says, "Hi guys, I graduated from a boot camp a couple of months ago, have no UX experience. I'm submitting appropriate level applications where I can find them, and I haven't been successful getting interviews. Because of lack of experience, I only have case studies on my portfolio, but it seems what the boot camps are looking for in a portfolio must be a lot different from what companies are actually looking for." Oh, Carla wins on that one. Carla's hitting that nail. Can you recommend specific websites that show how to build a portfolio that's more likely to be successful, or is it more of a subjective search? I'm going to say it's something else, but I'll let the guys go first. Gentlemen, who would like to start helping Carla?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's a lot here. You're
I'm
gonna
jump.
be late.
I'm gonna jump on one thing. I'm only gonna do part of this because I think together we're gonna cover it all. So I'm only gonna touch on a couple things. Number one, not only boot camps, but a lot of people in the UX community sell people on the currency of portfolios, and they ascribe way too much currency level, if you get my metaphor, to the portfolio. Getting the interviews doesn't come from a portfolio. The resume gets the interviews. So make sure that you're presenting yourself the right way. If you are transitioning from another discipline, make sure that you are leveraging the prior experience to show what you're bringing to the table as an entry-level UXer. Make sure that you do that. There are some people, hate to have to tell you this, but it's just a fact. Some companies, when they see what they consider to be, this is the way they view it, a cookie cutter portfolio, when they do look at that early on, they see it, you're immediately disqualified. This has been circulating for the last 2 years, and boot camps aren't telling people this, on top of the fact that they're telling people they're taking your money, your $8,000 to $25,000, to enter into an oversaturated entry-level UX market. They did not tell you that. There's a lot of things that they don't tell you. We're not condemning you for having gone to a boot camp. We're looking to help you. But the boot camps, I am them in their operation because they're very dishonest, and they're being enriched by it. They're getting rich by lying and misleading you. That I don't like that. But what you're going to have to do is continue to sharpen yourself, continue to retool yourself, continue to get better. There's a lot of, wow, it's almost hard to say, and I'll let the other two address the boot camp. I think I'm going to cut it off there and just, that's my piece.
Nick.
I feel the same way about templates for portfolios as I feel the same way about templates for things like personas, right? The things that you see when you're doing a Google image search or when you're looking at stuff, those are solutions that those people designed to their problems, to their narrative, their journey, their story kind of thing.
Yep.
So it may not apply to you and yours. The way I see a portfolio, and I don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way, a portfolio is evidence of the journey that you've been on, of the work and the skills and the experiences that you've had. You are different to other people. They are different to you. Why should you have this homogenized experience in your folio? Makes no sense to me. I think I know you're saying you're relying upon case studies because that's where you are in your experience. Fair play. You've had to kind of build your own portfolio. All you can do is put your best efforts into showcasing you and what your approach is and how you might approach a real live project, because that's all you can do at this stage of your game. I would not overplay it, and I would seek to sell myself as like an uncut diamond, somebody that with a bit of experience and a bit of mentoring, a bit of help, that I can be, you're all potential. You're not the finished article, and that's what your portfolio is not meant to reflect that.
Darren,
Whereas Debbie's folio or Darren would need to.
Yeah, I want to throw one tidbit here. Dr. Nick says something that triggered one more thing. One of the things I see, I review portfolios a lot, especially with students. And one of the things, the common errors, so I'm throw this out there, and if you're not doing it, maybe somebody else is, please avoid being overly verbose in your portfolio. It is a known fact that people don't read on the web. If your portfolio, your use case looks like this long, gigantic narrative, guess what's going to get rejected? So bullet points, quick. Make sure that you write in a way that facilitates skimming, because that's what people are going to do when they look at your work. They're not looking to read some long dissertation about the work that you've done. That will get you disqualified because it comes across as arrogant, and then you're taking up too much of their time, and they'll write you off.
Remember, as a UX person, either research or design, but particularly design, you're meant to be the master of visual information and that sort of thing. You should be able to design your own portfolio experience. That's what blows my mind. If you're a researcher, you should be able to present your research findings in a certain way. And portfolio leverages both of those skills.
Okay, I've written down a lot of notes. I'm sorry we're going to go late here. So let me take a couple of these in no order. So first of all, we did a recent show, episode 148, on what I look for in a portfolio and some of the things that I see going right or wrong when I review portfolios. You can find that by just going to YouTube and writing deltacx 148. It'll come right up, and I definitely recommend watching that. It costs you nothing. Second of all, I want to semi-disagree with a couple of things that I heard and just give you a different angle. So first of all, Darren says you're not going to get the job, the interview on the portfolio, you're going to get it on the resume. And I just want to say that different hiring managers have different perspectives on this. That is definitely not a universal.
True.
Some hiring managers prefer the resume because they want to see where you've been, because they think that kind of makes you. But of course, if you're trying to get your first job, then the only place you've been is somewhere else. So the portfolio is going to speak, the portfolio is supposed to speak to what your skills and proficiencies are. What can you do? What are you capable of, and what have you done? And that's the story you're trying to tell. So ultimately, you need a good resume and you need a good portfolio, because people are going to fall in love more with one than the other. I'm way more of a portfolio person than I am a resume person, because I know people who've worked at Apple and Google and whatever, and they're dicks and they suck at what they do, and I don't know how they got their jobs. So, I can't just go by, ooh, they worked at place, because sometimes dickheads work at place. So I don't fall in love with the resume that much. I wrote down, I agree with Darren about how the boot camps and online courses and a lot of websites sell you on, you need a portfolio. At the end of this course, you'll have a portfolio. And it seems like nobody really understands what the portfolio is and why they're trying to get one. They just think, if I have a portfolio, I must have done a thing, and now where's my job? And remember that your portfolio, now, I come from music, and to me, the portfolio is your musical audition. The portfolio is like, if I am trying to audition for something and someone says, I was on a call with someone, and it wasn't a music call, it was actually a UX dude, but we're both musicians. And he was like, he said, give me a high A flat. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's A flat. Ah. So if I can do that, then that is my portfolio. He wants to know if I know what an A flat is, and can I sing it, and can I sing a high one? And the portfolio is the before I interview you version of that, where I go, is this person any good at planning a research project? Is this person any good at asking the right questions? Is this person any good at interaction design? And that is your chance to hit a high A flat and say, I can do these things. I'm the person you want to talk to. So stop thinking if I just have a portfolio and I throw some stuff together, where's my job? Because your portfolio is representative of what you are capable of doing. So remember that hiring managers are looking for the portfolio to tell a story of skill and proficiency. But I find that 96% of the portfolios I see tell a story of not being ready for the first job. And that just might be where everybody is. That's not a damnation. That's not a you'll never work in UX. It just means that nearly every portfolio I see tells the story of someone who is just starting to learn UX at a basic and surface level and is not ready to go into that job, a job that's going to expect them to hit the ground running. You could get an internship. You could get an apprenticeship. You could be somebody's assistant. Everyone should qualify for those. But for a junior job that expects you to hit the ground running, you might not apply for that. And then the last thing I wrote down was, for when Darren says people don't read. I believe that people read things when they are interested in them. People are definitely more skimmers. People will stop and read when deeply interested in something. So it's not a case of people never read, but definitely they prefer to skim to find the meat of what they're interested in, and then they might spend a little more time there. And that's why I do recommend that people give me a little bit more of a complete case study or a complete portfolio story, but use accordions, because then accordions can show and hide longer pieces of information that some people might not care about. For example, if I'm considering you for research, I want to know a little bit more about your research plan. I want to know a little bit more about a couple of the most interesting questions that you asked. Well, if you start writing out the things that I want to know, Darren's right. You're going to have a long portfolio, and people want to be able to just blow through it, especially in the early round when it's probably an HR person or recruiter who's just looking for a stock photo of a sticky note. So just remember that, like Nick said, this is your opportunity to say, I understand that my target user is first a recruiter and then a hiring manager who is trying to get the short, medium, long version of this story. How do I design the page that tells the short version, the medium version, and the long version based on whatever the hell someone might come here and need? Because, hey, we have accordions, and we have ways that we can hide or suppress information until people want to see it. So please, I would say, you might not have already known this. We're not mad at you. We're mad at the boot camps that are misinforming you. We support you. Worry less about, I need a portfolio, and worry more about, what story is my portfolio telling? And is it telling the story that I'm kind of not ready for a job? And then what am I going to do about that? Darren.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to point something out too for people who are digesting something in the format with the three of us talking. We were both correct, and I hope people understand that. You have to take the information that was given and look at the various scenarios. For example, when I say that people don't read on the web, that's something that we were always taught. And it means exactly when you define it, it means exactly what Debbie said. That people basically, they skim. The first thing people do is they skim and something, ooh, I want to see more about that. And that's so they don't do it initially. So going to read, that's when you lose. So you want to design for skimming, but put information there that's going to help you get your point across and communicate effectively. Then they're going to read what they were bouncing around the bullets and bouncing through the headings. Now they're going to stop and look at it. So just so you know that's what that means. Yep, visual hierarchy is, you got to demonstrate it, because a lot of people don't know it. A lot of people saying they're doing UX, they have no visual hierarchy whatsoever.
There's no reason for you to not know about it. There's a micro lesson on it.
Right.
And before Nick jumps in, we got a quick follow-up question. If you didn't do university, but you did some online courses, can you put that on your resume? I don't see why not, but I can't guarantee that anybody will care or be impressed by the course, because just because you did a course doesn't mean you have, because again, you can list the courses if you want, but I'm still looking at your portfolio to see how you applied that knowledge. Congratulations on getting the knowledge. I want to see how you apply it. Nick, something to add?
Yeah.
No, nothing.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll jump in on that one again, because I had a second point. People don't know that I used to work in HR. One of the things that I have to say about the resume bit, the larger the organization is, on average, the more that resume is the first thing. You can submit a portfolio link when you apply for a job, but Debbie nailed it. It depends on who the hiring manager is. When you do not know who they are, you have to take the generic approach. Because if they had an operation, sorry, I got a cat who's addicted to plastic, little drug addict. I hear him over there fumbling through some plastic. If somebody, the more generic they are from an HR perspective, the more that resume is going to be your ticket. Have your portfolio ready, but understand that if you have portfolio without resume, in the average scenario, means you get shot down. And make sure, don't be like this one guy that we looked at once, and his resume doomed him. It didn't matter what was in his portfolio, especially when he presented himself, one of his past jobs, as a UX researcher. Did you catch that?
Spell check, y'all. Spell check.
Researcher, or somebody who says that they are good in Figma and they misspell Figma. Not once,
I have attention
multiple
to
times.
detail. Yeah, so everyone
Bingo.
writes in their thing, I have attention to detail. And
Yep.
I'm like, you didn't even run spell check on this.
And that's why I look at resumes first. I mean, I'm the guy that has gone through a stack of 300 resumes, literally. And that was when we didn't do it electronically. So I literally had a stack of 300 resumes on my desk, and I'm looking for disqualifiers. You got to make it through that first cut. And so attention to detail, your spelling, how are you using your contrast? How are you using your typography? Though you're telling me about yourself from a UX perspective, when you really think at it, your resume is a portfolio. If you look at it from that angle, you'll nail it. And then present your portfolio. You earn the right for me to look at your portfolio in my world.
Well, we've run wildly late. Thank you again. Sorry again about all of the problems on my end. I caused this, and I did my best. Where can we find you guys?
For me, you can find me. LinkedIn is where most people connect with me. LinkedIn. I've got the UX Uncensored on Medium. I've got the UX Uncensored YouTube channel. We've got the private social media area that we're still trying to keep alive. I think it's on life support, but we're keeping it alive over on Engage with Mighty Networks. I'm on Twitter. I've got a Facebook page. I know Debbie hates Facebook, but they're there, and I'm bearing with them because of my presence over there and things I got to do. But I'm pretty much available. I'm pretty responsive. If I do take the weekends off from LinkedIn, I have to, because I get so many messages that I have to give myself a break. So, but you can pretty much catch me at almost any given time. But remember, I do have a job. Please do not write me as if I'm sitting around drinking iced tea under a tree waiting to hear from you. I am not. I am busy, but I will get back to you.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks so much for being back here again and doing the Three Musketeers. Nick, how do we track you down?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what Darren said. You can come find me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to spend a bit more time there as I have in the past, but again, I'm a working guy. I can't, you know what I mean? I've got a big project on. So yeah, if you've got questions, LinkedIn. But the best place to come get me is here on Debbie's show to ask questions, because you'll get a better answer.
Thank you. Yes, Nick's here every month. Darren is hit and miss. We'll have to see when you feel like coming back. But thanks so much for being the special guest on what used to be your own show. And Chukwudi, sorry we don't have time for your last question, but of course we're here every Tuesday. Either I'll be here alone or I have special guests, so come on out there. Really quickly, there is a show tomorrow. We're going to learn from a UI manager what she looks for in UI portfolios and UI interviews. So we're going to be only talking about visual design and UI tomorrow just to change it up a bit. I'm going to end this show and hope my computer doesn't explode, but thanks again to everybody for their patience and their time, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are